Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dr. Syra Malik, specialist in integrative medicine and women's and men's sexual health, and today we're talking about something that can genuinely upgrade your intimate experiences. We're going deep on specific natural powders you can place directly on your tongue about 30 to 60 minutes before intimacy to support blood flow, stamina, and firmness. Used thoughtfully, these can help you feel confident, responsive, and present with your partner. Before we start, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on so you don't miss practical, evidence-based tools like this. Yes, the title is bold because timing and method really do matter here. We're not talking about slow month-long routines today. We're talking about targeted, on-the-day strategies you can deploy when it counts. The idea is straightforward: sublingual and oral mucosal absorption. When a fine powder sits on your tongue or under it, the active compounds come into contact with richly vascular tissue and can enter your bloodstream faster than if they had to survive the full digestive process first. That often means quicker onset and more predictable effects. Think of this as an acute support kit you can reach for when you want a great night to actually feel like a great night. As a clinician, I care deeply about giving you information that is both practical and grounded in evidence. So let's walk through each of these powders carefully, one by one, so you can make informed choices that suit your own body and health profile. Let's start with the most consistently useful option in this category, L-Citrulline. L-Citrulline is an amino acid your body converts to L-Arginine, which is then used to generate nitric oxide, the tiny signaling molecule that tells smooth muscle in blood vessel walls to relax. When those vessels relax, blood flow improves, and in penile tissue, that translates to easier onset and better maintenance of firmness. Why L-Citrulline instead of L-Arginine itself? Counterintuitive as it sounds, oral L-Citrulline tends to raise blood L-Arginine levels more reliably than taking L-Arginine directly. That's because L-Arginine is rapidly broken down in the gut and liver before it ever reaches the bloodstream. L-Citrulline bypasses much of that first-pass loss and converts gradually, producing a smoother and more sustained rise in nitric oxide availability. Clinical studies in men with mild erectile difficulties have shown improvements in erection hardness and satisfaction with L-Citrulline supplementation. Endurance research also repeatedly finds benefits for perceived fatigue and exercise performance, all of which map very nicely to sexual stamina and staying power. How to use it for an on-demand effect? Place about 3 to 6 grams of pure L-Citrulline powder on your tongue. Let it partially dissolve for 30 to 60 seconds. Then swallow with water. The portion that dissolves absorbs through the oral mucosa. The rest will absorb through the intestinal tract. Take it 30 to 60 minutes before intimacy. Many men report easier arousal, fuller rigidity, better maintenance, and more recovery capacity. The taste is neutral to slightly bitter. You can chase it with a sip of water or a small splash of unsweetened juice if you prefer, but direct tongue contact gives you the fastest absorption route. A quick note for those who prefer a clean food-based option: organic watermelon extract is naturally rich in L-Citrulline and can be a gentler, more palatable choice. I've linked a high-quality option in the pinned comments for your convenience. Next up is beetroot powder, and this one surprises people until they remember that athletes have been using beet juice for performance enhancement for years. Beetroot is rich in dietary nitrates, which your body converts to nitric oxide through an oral to systemic pathway that is entirely distinct from the L-Citrulline and L-Arginine route. Using both pathways together can offer additive support, one from amino acids, one from nitrates. It's a complementary dual mechanism approach that I find genuinely elegant from a physiological standpoint. Beetroot has a robust research base for modestly lowering blood pressure, enhancing endothelial function, and improving exercise efficiency by reducing the oxygen cost of sustained effort. In terms of sexual function, that can translate into better pelvic blood flow, easier achievement of firmness, and greater staying power throughout intimacy. For an acute effect, place about 1 to 2 tablespoons of high-quality beetroot powder on your tongue. Let it mingle briefly with saliva. Then swallow with water about 45 to 60 minutes before intimacy. Here's a clinical tip that most people overlook. Swish the beet powder slurry gently around your mouth for 20 to 30 seconds before swallowing. Friendly oral bacteria begin the nitrate to nitrite conversion right there on your tongue, which primes the downstream production of nitric oxide before the compound even reaches your stomach. That oral priming step genuinely matters. The taste of beetroot is earthy and mildly sweet, quite tolerable for most people. Expect onset a touch slower than L-Citrulline, but with a beautifully synergistic feel when both are used together. Third in our lineup is Maca root powder. Maca is a Peruvian root used traditionally for centuries to support energy, fertility, and libido. Modern clinical studies suggest maca can increase sexual desire in both men and women, enhance perceived well-being, and in some trials, support erectile function, without materially changing serum testosterone levels. That finding is particularly interesting to me as a physician because it implies that the mechanisms at play may be more central, involving brain signaling and mitochondrial energy production rather than purely hormonal. Color varieties matter somewhat. Black maca is often favored for male performance and fertility endpoints. Red maca is discussed in the context of prostate balance. Yellow maca is the most common and still very helpful as a general performance and vitality support. For acute pre-intimacy use, place 1 to 3 teaspoons of maca powder on the tongue. Let it partially dissolve, then swallow with water or blend into a small light smoothie if you prefer. Aim for 60 to 90 minutes before intimacy, as maca's effects unfold a little more gradually than L-Citrulline. Many men describe a noticeable lift in desire, mood, and energy, a drive plus stamina effect that complements the vascular work of the other compounds beautifully. Think of maca as addressing the motivational and energetic layer of sexual performance, while L-Citrulline and beetroot address the circulatory layer. Fourth, let's talk about pine pollen powder. Pine pollen contains small amounts of plant-derived androgens alongside a broad spectrum of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and flavonoids. The human clinical data are more limited here compared to L-Citrulline or beetroot. But both traditional use and user reports point to subtle increases in vitality, mood, and readiness. It's also described as adaptogenic, meaning it may help your body regulate stress responses more smoothly, which matters enormously for sexual performance, as I'll address shortly. For sublingual use, place 1 to 2 teaspoons of pine pollen powder under the tongue. Hold it there for 60 to 90 seconds, then swallow with water about an hour before intimacy. Expect a mild piney taste and a gentle grounding lift rather than a dramatic surge. I think of pine pollen as a supportive co-pilot in a performance stack, not the main engine, but a meaningful contributor to the overall experience, particularly for men who notice that stress or fatigue dulls their drive. Fifth, let's cover horny goat weed powder, specifically versions standardized for Icariin content. Icariin is a flavonoid with mild phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitory activity. PDE5 is the same enzyme targeted by certain prescription erectile dysfunction medications, though Icariin's action is substantially weaker. By nudging cyclic GMP signaling upward in erectile tissue, Icariin can help sustain relaxation of smooth muscle and maintain inward blood flow, the physiological basis of firm, sustained erections. For an acute approach, choose a powder standardized to around 10 to 20% Icariin. Place about half to 1 teaspoon on your tongue 30 to 60 minutes before intimacy. The taste is distinctly bitter. I won't pretend otherwise. So follow promptly with water or a small splash of juice. Where effects are noticed, they tend to be modest but real, and they combine well with nitric oxide-oriented ingredients like L-Citrulline and beetroot. Now, for those who want a simple, repeatable performance stack that covers multiple mechanisms without being overly complicated, here's a clean formula I recommend for occasional use. Mix 2 teaspoons of L-Citrulline powder, 1 tablespoon of beetroot powder, and 1 teaspoon of maca powder. You can pre-blend several servings and store them in a small airtight container so they're ready when you want them. About 45 to 60 minutes before intimacy, place the mixture on your tongue in 1 or 2 small portions. Let each sit for 30 to 60 seconds, then swallow with water. The beetroot's natural earthiness and mild sweetness temper the slight bitterness of the citrulline, and maca adds a subtle malty undertone, so the overall flavor profile is actually quite workable. This 3-compound stack supports immediate and sustained nitric oxide availability, vascular relaxation, mental and physical energy, and sexual desire. What I think of as the 4 foundational pillars of male sexual performance. Most men describe the effect as noticeable, but entirely natural, which is exactly what we're aiming for. Timing is worth thinking about carefully. For L-Citrulline, 30 to 60 minutes typically works well, with many men feeling a peak between 60 and 90 minutes. For beetroot, allow 45 to 60 minutes to let the nitrate conversion pathway spin up properly. For Maca, 60 to 90 minutes is a good window given its broader central nervous system effects. If you're stacking all 3, aiming to take them 45 to 60 minutes before intimacy usually yields a nicely overlapping peak across all mechanisms. A few practical optimizers worth mentioning. Avoid a large, heavy meal immediately before you take these. A full stomach can blunt absorption and make you feel sluggish and uncomfortable, exactly what you don't want. A light meal a couple of hours prior is ideal. Hydrate well throughout the day and sip a full glass of water when you take the powders. Vascular function genuinely loves hydration. And even mild dehydration can reduce the effectiveness of nitric oxide pathways. If you enjoy a bit of culinary experimentation, a tiny pinch of black pepper added to a mix can enhance absorption of certain phytonutrients via piperine. And a small amount of healthy fat, a few nuts, or half an avocado can aid uptake of fat-soluble compounds, though do keep any pre-intimacy eating light overall. Safety questions I hear frequently in my practice. For most healthy men, these powders are well tolerated at the doses we've discussed. However, if you have cardiovascular disease, take blood pressure medications, use nitrates for chest pain, are on anticoagulants, or manage any chronic health conditions, please speak with your physician before adding these to your routine. L-Citrulline and beetroot can lower blood pressure modestly, which is typically beneficial, but in combination with antihypertensive medications, the effect could be more pronounced than desirable for some individuals. Start at the lower end of the dose ranges. Assess your personal response, and please do not combine these with prescription PDE5 inhibitors such as sildenafil or tadalafil unless your prescriber has explicitly cleared that combination. Side effects are usually mild when they do occur. L-Citrulline can cause transient gastrointestinal discomfort in sensitive individuals, especially at higher doses. Titrate up gradually. Beetroot may tint urine or stool a pink-red color, a phenomenon called baturia. It is completely harmless, but it can be startling if you're not expecting it. Maca can feel mildly stimulating for some people. Again, start at the lower end of the range and adjust from there. And horny goatweed's bitterness is its biggest hurdle for most. Choosing a well-standardized product helps with both consistency and palatability. A quick word on expectations, because I think managing them honestly is part of responsible clinical guidance. These compounds are not magic solutions, and they will not overcome seriously compromised vascular health on their own. They work best as intelligent accelerators layered onto solid lifestyle foundations. Regular physical movement, resistance training at least twice weekly, a diet rich in leafy greens, beets, pomegranate, and healthy fats, smart stress management, and 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. Those pillars raise your baseline performance capacity. These powders give you a meaningful, targeted nudge on the days when you want to feel your absolute best. Speaking of those foundations, here's a simple weekly framework I share with patients to keep their system primed and responsive. Walk briskly or cycle for 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Consistent cardiovascular movement conditions your endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, which is quite literally the tissue that produces nitric oxide in response to blood flow. Add 2 full body strength sessions per week to improve insulin sensitivity and support healthy testosterone levels. Eat a generous salad with nitrate-rich greens and a serving of roasted beets or a pomegranate bowl 3 to 4 days a week. Hydrate to keep your urine pale straw yellow, keep alcohol modest, and avoid smoking entirely. I cannot stress this enough. Nothing undermines erectile tissue quite like tobacco. Smoking damages endothelial cells directly, reducing nitric oxide production at the source. Now I want to address something that doesn't get discussed nearly enough in conversations about male sexual performance: the nervous system. If performance anxiety creeps in, your sympathetic nervous system activates the fight or flight response, and one of the direct physiological consequences is vasoconstriction. Blood vessels tighten. Blood flow to erectile tissue decreases. Firmness becomes harder to achieve and maintain. This is not a character flaw or a weakness. It is pure physiology, and it responds to intervention. A simple breathing technique I recommend to patients: inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7. Exhale slowly for 8 seconds. Repeat 4 times. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, or in this context, the rest and connect state, and meaningfully reduces sympathetic tone, freeing up blood flow. During intimacy itself, stay present with sensation and with your partner's cues rather than running mental performance scorecards. Your nervous system routes blood based on a simple threat versus safety signal. Pleasure, connection, and arousal thrive in a felt sense of safety. The more you can anchor yourself in genuine presence rather than anxious self-monitoring, the more your physiology will cooperate with you. Let's bring all of this together into a clean, practical action plan you can begin as soon as your next intimate evening. Step 1. Pick one powder to test on its own. L-Citrulline is the ideal starting point because it is the most well-studied and consistently noticeable for the greatest number of men. Choose a reputable, pure L-Citrulline powder, not citrulline malate for this specific purpose, and on a light stomach. Take 3 grams sublingually about 45 minutes before intimacy. Then simply notice. Observe your experience, onset, firmness, maintenance, recovery. Keep it simple and observational the first time. Step 2. After 2 or 3 solo trials, add beetroot on another occasion. Use 1 tablespoon sublingually 45 to 60 minutes prior, with or without the L-Citrulline. Pay careful attention to how the combination feels compared to L-Citrulline alone. For many men, the difference is subtle but distinctly additive, a fuller, more sustained quality to vascular response. Step 3. On another occasion, layer in 1 teaspoon of Maca 60 to 90 minutes before intimacy and observe how mood, desire, and energy shift. I find that Maca's contribution often becomes most noticeable in the motivational dimension, a greater sense of drive and engagement. Keep a brief notes log on your phone so you're building actual personal data rather than guessing from memory. If you enjoy the combination of all 3, pre-mix the stack we discussed and keep 2 or 3 small sachets ready in advance. Most men find their personal sweet spot within a couple of intentional attempts. The goal here is not to chase maximal doses. It is to find the lowest effective amounts that give you a natural, confident, fully present experience with your partner. To wrap up, I want to share the philosophy that underpins everything I do in this space as a clinician. Sexual performance, at its core, is cardiovascular performance plus nervous system ease plus authentic human connection. These powders support the first 2 dimensions meaningfully. You and your partner create the third. When you align all 3, healthy circulation, a calm and receptive nervous system, and genuine emotional presence, evenings become memorable for exactly the right reasons. If this breakdown was helpful to you, please hit like, share it with someone who could benefit from a science-grounded, non-sensationalized guide, and subscribe for more evidence-based tools for men's health and well-being. I'm Dr. Syra Malik. Take good care of your circulation, your sleep, and your mindset. Let these tools work with your biology, not against it. And I'll see you in the next one.